this is a declaring a variable and this is a initializing the variable. So here declaration and initialization goes in the same statement. So this is called implicit declaration. We'll see what are the differences between the both. Okay, and this is explicit declaration. So to use any variable, you should declare it. You should declare it by using this statement, or else first declare it by using a dim keyword, then x equal to 10. And coming to this variable x, this variable can hold any type of data. Means here in VB scripting there is no separate data types. So all the data types can be handled with the same variable, but depending on the context of usage it will change. Suppose you say x equal to quotations and 10. Then x will be considered as a string. String means another type of data which is called is nothing but group of characters is called a string. Generally, if you have something like statements or any words, then we will use quotations. If it is a string, means it's a group of characters, then we'll use quotation marks. So whatever is included in the quotation marks, that will be considered as a string. Suppose you want to assign a numeric value, then you can directly assign it without the quotations. So whenever you don't include the quotations, the particular value will be considered as a numerical data. Otherwise, it will be considered as a string. So depending on the context, the data type of the particular variable will be changed. And coming to this, suppose you need x equal to 2.43, then by default x will be converted as float value. Means there are sub data types, like basically data types are integer and string, but there are subtypes in the integer like float value. Float means some 4 decimal values. It will accept till 4 decimal values. Or else integer. Integer means it will accept just the number. Just if you say x equal to 40 or 20, then it is considered as integer. Suppose you declare x is equal to some 2.43, then it is considered as a float value. Or else you can declare the integer as dim x as integer in VB scripting. But here you can just directly declare the type, because there is only subtypes of the variant, which is a float, long, single and all. Depending on the precision values, the values will be considered. And for naming any variable, there are some naming conventions. Like first letter should begin with an alphabet. The variable name, variable is nothing but container to hold the value. This particular value should start with a character, and it should not contain any embedded product, means embedded period. Like we are having a dot, right? Dot is having a special meaning that it separates the parents and childs, and whenever you used to apply some method on it, you put dot and that method. So dot is having some special meaning. So you cannot use a dot in naming a variable. And the naming, the characters cannot exceed 255 characters. Suppose you declare it as x, you can give any name for this. Like you can say num1, or else some AB, or else some name for the variable. But that character should not exceed 255 characters. So that way you are having some restrictions for naming the characters. Let us see how you will use the character values. X equal to 10 and y equal to 20. You are assigning values to the two variables. Now you declare a new variable x and say a is equals to, directly you can write x plus y. So now z contains x plus y, and you can use message box. Message box is nothing but a built-in function of VB scripting. Built-in function means we'll see what are functions. Just take when you write message box of X and Z, and if you run the script, you will see the result in a pop-up window. It's called a output function, which is a built-in. Just comment all this. If you execute this script, right, you see the message, you see the output in the some pop-up window, and it will stay there. The execution will be paused there until you click OK. Suppose if you want to see the output of any variable or anything, then you can use this message box function. And there are also other variable types like which are called constants. Here variables will be taking values which keep on changing. But if you declare something as a constant, how to declare a variable as a constant? If you say const, use the big keyword const and say some x equal to 5, then that x value remains 5 throughout the program. You cannot change the x value. But in this case, you are using some x equal to 10, y equal to 10. Suppose after this, if you just assign x equal to 10, now the new value for the x is 30. You can change the variable values, but you cannot change the variables which are constant, which are declared as constant. Means if you want some variable or some value to be constant, to be used in the same script throughout, then you can declare it as const x equal to, and if you assign some value throughout, it will consider the same value. So that is about variables, declaring the variables, and constants, and how to assign the values to the variables. And next one is a operators. Operators in VB scripting. What are operators? Operators are nothing but this arithmetic operators. There are different types like arithmetic, comparison operators. Next one is concatenation operators, each having their own importance. Next one, logical. These are different types of operators. What is meant by arithmetic operators? This include plus, minus, multiplication, division. All these are called arithmetic operators, and also we have some more mod, and we have string concatenation, ampersand. Ampersand is called string concatenation. Means suppose you have two strings. Let us declare the string A equal to QTP, and let us take B equal to some test, QTP test. Okay, suppose if you want to concatenate these two, means you want to appending means you want to write as a single string QTP test. So you just can use this concatenation operator. C is equal to A ampersand B. Then it will give you the both combined, appended QTP test. So this is called comparison operator, string concatenation, used for string concatenations. Of course, this comes under concatenation. Okay, concatenation operators. And also plus is also called as concatenation operator. Again, suppose if you perform this plus symbol on numerical values, addition will be performed. Means see here, if you are trying to do this plus on this numerical values, x and y are numeric. So if you perform this plus symbol, plus operator on this, it will do the addition operation. If suppose here both are strings, here if you do, instead of writing this, if you do A plus B, again it will do the same thing. It will append, it will concatenate, but because it cannot add, that's why I told you QTP in this VB scripting, variables will be taking the data type depending on the context. If it is declared within the quotations, it will be considered as a string, and then they will be concatenated because it cannot be added. But it will not throw any error, it will just append it. Because you are doing some plus symbol on these which are strings, it will not throw you any error, it will just concatenate. But here, because those are numeric values, it will add. Means depending on the context, it will perform the operation. Suppose if one is a string and one is a numeric value, let us say this is a string and this is numeric value. If you try to perform some addition operation on that, say like a new variable, take a new q equal to x plus a, which is a string and one is a numeric value and one is a character value. Now q, it will return an error. So that is how plus and concatenation operators will perform. Next comes the logical operators. Logical operators are nothing but, we used to write and, right? If both are true, then it is true, right? If A is equal to true and B is equal to true, then the output is false. Means true and true. It will give you false. In the lower classes you might have studied. Those are called logical operators. Means if both statements are true, then the output is, here the output is true. If suppose one is true and one is false, and if you operate AND operator between those, if one is true and one is false and you operate AND operator between those, the output is false. Right? So those are called logical operators which you will be using in our programming, like ORs, using or else XR. All these are logical operators. And logical NOT, if not. Comparison operators are nothing but to check the values if A greater than B or else B less than C. Greater than symbol, less than symbol, or these are called comparison operators. Different operators which we will be using. Similarly, equality operator, likewise less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and so on. All these are comparison operators. To compare two variables or any two values, we'll be using these things. Next important thing is conditional constructs. What are these conditional constructs? First one is if condition, if block. What is this if block? If you put right and just give us some space, automatically the if block populates. What is this if block and why is this used? We'll be using this mostly in our scripts. These are called conditional statements. Means suppose if you want to execute something based on some condition, say I have a two variables, let us declare a two variables. I'm just commenting all this. So I have a two variables, A is equal to 5 and B is equal to 6. So if I want to do something depending on these values, depending on these inputs, A equal to 5 and B equal to 6. Or else if I want to do something if A equal to 5, then if A is equal to 5, then I'll show some message box. A is 5. Then if you execute, you will be seeing this message. If A is equal to 5 only, you can see this message. Or else you can use here one more function, input box. input box of enter the value of A. What is this input box function do? This is again an inbuilt function of VB scripting which will be used to take the input from the user. Let us run the script. Whenever you use input box, it will show you the box like this to enter the user input. So here it shows whatever you write here. Enter the value of A. So give some value here 5 and say OK. Then if A equal to 5, because user entered A, this is executed. A is 5. Now again check it. This time I am giving some other value 7. So I didn't see any message because it will not go into this loop. It will execute this statement only if this is true. That is what is if block statement. So if A equal to 5, I want to do something, that's all. So whenever A is equal to 5, this line of code will be executed. So this is the first conditional statement. Second one, here suppose I am doing something when A is equal to 2, A is equal to 5. But if I have some other thing to do when A is not equal to 5, or else when other thing happens, so that is called if else statement. Let us see it. Okay. Here if A equal to 5, I want to do this. Else I have some other thing to do. So I'll add a else statement. This is called if else statement. And in this if else statement, we have one more thing. You can write whatever you want. Message box. And then A is not 5. I want to show this message also to the user. When A is equal to 5, I want to show this. Or else if A is not equal to 5, then I want to show this. So if I execute this, just commenting the first type, now just execute this. This is if else statement and this is just if statement. Now run it. A is not 5. Okay, from where it took the value of A? Okay, here I am not declaring, so by default it will take this value. So let us use the input box function. A is equal to input box, enter the value of A. So if you execute, user will be prompted with a message in a dialog box. So you can enter your value here, 6. Now it will not go into this loop. It will not just execute this line. It will be just treated as a comments, that's all. These are not executable part now because it will not go inside of this if statement. It comes to this else and it is showing the message A is not 5. So in the scripts, if you have multiple conditions, means you have some condition to do. Like in the last class we have used if and that dialog box dot exist, right? Then go inside and then click on close button, right? Yesterday we have used something like that. We'll be using these statements in our scripts. Then close it. If that exists, means if that particular window, whatever it is, if that exists, then close it, or else just don't do nothing. So you can add any number of conditions in your script, like any number of if else statements. So this is just if statement is used if you have only one thing to do when the condition is true. Suppose you have also got some other thing to do when that particular condition is false. I have something to do when this condition is true, and I have nothing to do when the condition is false, then I'll write this. If I also have some other thing to do when the condition is false, I go for this if else statement. Similarly, we have another type which is multiple if else statements. If else if. See here, I'll use if 5, then do this message box A is 5. Then I have one more thing to do. else. Here if I have more than two conditions, then you have to write if else if statements. Else if I have some other thing, like if else if a is equal to 7, or else a is equal to 7, then message box a is 7. Then if two conditions are there, I'll go with this, but if I have some multiple conditions, so I'll write another else if. Else if a is equal to 8, then do some other thing. Message box a is 8 means I want to show message for each value, right? Or else I have some other thing, multiple else if conditions. If I have multiple conditions, I choose this way. A is equal to 9, then a is 9, and so on. Likewise, you can add any number of else if statements. But adding many else if statements makes the code confusing and it's not easily readable if you keep on adding else if conditions. So that is the disadvantage of using multiple else if statements. This is called else if condition, this is if else if, and this is if else, and this is if condition. So if you keep on adding else if statements, the code becomes confusing and it will be difficult to understand later on. So we'll use one more type, which is called case statement, select case. If you have multiple conditions to execute, you will just write select case. See, you put select, automatically the syntax comes up. Select case and then this value. So you say select case A, then case values 5. If it is 5, if A is equal to 5, then you have to show this message. Message box A is 5. Suppose you have value 6. Message box A is 6. Case is 7. You use message box A is 7. And so on. Likewise, you can add any number of statements. If you are having multiple conditions, then you'll be choosing for select case. This is easy to use than this one. Adding else's makes the code not easily readable and it makes a confusing code. So whenever you have multiple conditions, we'll go for select case. So whenever A meets 5, this will be executed, or else this one, and so on. The syntax is select case and end select. This is the exit statement for the select, and if is the exit statement for the if block statements. One more important thing which we have is a looping constructs. What are these looping constructs? We have most important one, for loop, and the other one is while loop. We have many more, but these will be mostly used. Let us see the for loop. this for loop will be used when you want to do something again and again. Suppose here in this QTP will be using our test data from Excel files. Let us take any Excel file where your data is kept. See here, this is the data you are having, and if you want to pick the data from each row, you need to go through each row of your Excel file, or else consider the login data. See here, we are having some inputs like user IDs and passwords for your flight reservation application. So if you want to use multiple data and your data is given in the Excel file, which is in the external environment, and you need to pick up the data from each row of your Excel file, then you will be using for loop. Means using for loop, you will be iterating through each row of the Excel file. Like see, the syntax for writing is for. When you write for, automatically the end statement comes up, which is a next. Next is the exit statement for the for loop. Suppose say for, it takes one counter variable, which is I. I is called a counter variable, means it decides how many times the loop should be run. Suppose you initialize I equal to 0 to 3. Say some value, whatever it is. Suppose you want to run the loop for 3 times. So for I is equal to 0 to 3. Then you say just print. Print is also a utility function of QTP, which will print the output to the QTP print log window. Okay, just say I, print I, right? And declare, okay, here I am just declaring I equal to n. If you say like this, I equal to 0 to n, then this particular loop will be iterated n times. Suppose declare the two variables I, counter variable, let us declare it with the I equal to 0, and declare one more variable n equal to some 5. So this I is called a counter variable or initializing variable, which starts the for loop. So, and n is the limit. Suppose you are having 5 rows in your Excel file. Suppose say you are having 5 rows in your Excel sheet. Means you want to write the code, or else you want to repeat the code for each row. Later on we will be writing here code to get the data from the Excel file. So here you will write the code, but for each line the code should be executed, because it should get the data from this row, next from this one, and this, and so on. Means it should be iterated as many number of times as you have the rows in your Excel file. So what you will do, you will just run a for loop by writing n, and n will be assigned the number of rows on the Excel sheet. So if you do this, what happens? For the first time I equal to 0, because you initialized I 0. So it will go into the loop. Now it will print the I. Next it sees the next statement comes out, and I will be incremented by 1. For this for loop, each time I will be incremented by 1. So for the second time I becomes 2. So I equal to 2 to n, means that will be iterated until I reaches n. This loop will be iterated until I equal to n. If I is greater than n, then again it will not iterate. Means the for loop is used when you want to run the same thing, do the same thing over and again and again until the condition becomes false. Means this meaning of this is, it will run the loop until the I equal to 5. If I is not equal to 5, or else I exceeds 5, means I exceeds n, then the loop will not execute. Let us execute this. See here, when you use print statement, the output will be shown you in the print log window, quick test print log window. See, this is the output 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Likewise, if you want to repeat some set of code until the condition becomes false, then you can use the for loop. Means see here, it was showing, it was iterated for 5 times from 0 to 5. From 0, I equal to 0 to n, it will iterate until I reaches n. I equal to 0 to n means until I reaches n. By default, each time it will be incremented one time. So for the first time, I equal to 0. So I equal to 0 means it's less than n, so it goes inside, print the value of I. So for the first time I equal to 0, it will print it. Next comes out of the for loop. Next again iterates. I increments by 1, because by each time, for each loop, it will increment one time. So I becomes 1. Again goes inside the loop, print I. What is I now? 1. So again comes out, increments again. Now I is equal to 2. I is equal to 2 means 2 to n. N is 5. So again it goes into the loop. So now what is I? 2. So it will print the value of 2 and so on. Likewise, the loop will be iterated for the number of times until I reaches n. Once I reaches, exceeds the value of n, then the loop exists. Execution of the loop stops there. That is the use of for loop. And next one mostly used is while loop. This will be iterated until some condition is true. This will be iterated while something is true. That is the meaning of while loop. Let us see how to use this one. Suppose again you declare some other variable. Let us say some counter variable. Let us declare the variable as 10. Next, the syntax for this is while. Automatically the end statement comes up. Exit statement for this while loop is when. So while counter greater than 10. So this loop will be iterated. Okay, I declared I equal to 10. So let us give while counter greater than 0. And inside the loop, just print the counter variable. And after that, you can write a code to decrement the counter minus 1. Means what we are doing, we are first initializing the counter variable to 10, and inside the loop we are just printing the variable, and each time we are decrementing it by 1. Means this will be iterated, or this print value will be executed until counter variable is greater than 0. Once it reaches less than 0, it will not print the values. Inside the loop itself, I am decrementing the variable. Means it will start from 10. So it keep on printing. Firstly it will print, because first time it is 10. So count 10 is greater than 0. It will go inside the loop. So print 10. It will print. Now print counter variable I am decrementing. Now counter is assigned by 10 minus 1, 9. Now counter variable is 9. Again it comes. 9 is greater than 0. Again print the value and so on. Execute it. Before that, comment this. See here, this is the output. Firstly, it prints 10, 9, 8 and so on. Means the loop will be executed while that condition is true. Once the condition becomes false, it will be no more executed. Means if you want to repeat some code until the condition is true, then you can use this while statement. the output. The loop keep on executing until the condition is true. Once the condition becomes false, means once counter is after 1, if it is decremented, then it will not print the value. 0 is also not printed because 0 is not greater than 0. From there onwards, it will not print the value. It will print till 1 because 1 is greater than 0. Again, it will go here, it will print 1. Then 1 minus 1, 0. Now counter becomes 0. It will execute again. 0 is not greater than 0. Means condition becomes false. So the execution stops there. So these are called conditional constructs, which are used for executing the code depending on some conditions, or if you want to repeat that repeatedly. So those are called looping constructs, used for repeating the same code depending on some condition. Using for loop, you can iterate, you can execute the code for each value. Coming to this while loop, the code can be executed until the condition becomes false. Next type, there is another type of variables which are called which are called arrays. Another type of variables called arrays. Till now we have seen variables which will hold the values, single values. Means suppose you declare variable x, it can hold only one single value, right? Whether it is a string or whatever it is, whatever data type, you declare one variable, one value. But using arrays, you can store a series of values. Let us see how to declare the arrays. Declaration goes like give any name for the array, say new array, and also the number of values it should hold should be given, like dim array of 3. Means it will contain 3 values, 3 variables. It contains a series of variables. Like if you say dim is equal to 3, you can also declare each variable like new array of 0. Means this 0 is nothing but index. If you have an array like this, each value in this array will be given the index value, will be recognized by the index value. Like let me show you. Suppose you are having 3 variables like this. The first one, item 1 is some, let us say take some apple, and you have item 2 equal to some banana, all fruits. Next, item 3, some grapes. So these are 3 different values. Suppose you want a single variable to hold these all values, you declare it as array. Give some name, let us say fruits array, fruits. Suppose say fruits of 3. Here it's enough to say fruits of 2. Suppose you declare a variable by name dim fruits of 2. So here you want to assign these values. For each value in the array, it's like a series of values. Array values will start from 0. Means this is called index. Each value in an array is identified by its place. Index can be considered as placeholder. Which place is that value? Suppose you take this the first element, apple. So first element index value of the array will be 0. And this is the second element. Second element index value will be 1. And the third element index value will be 2. Suppose there are 3 elements in the array, then index numbering will be given as 2. Fruits of 2 means it contains 3 values. Like fruits of 0. Fruits of 0 means it's the first element, which is apple. Fruits of 1 means it's the second element, which is banana. Fruits of 2 means it's the third element, grapes. Suppose you declare array fruits of 2 means it itself indicates that it contains 3 values, means 1 greater than the number declared here. Because in numbering or else the index of the elements, indexing the elements starts from 0. 0, 1, 2 and so on. It contains multiple values like a series of elements. Suppose you want to declare or else you want to print only one particular value, you want to use some second value. So you just use that by the index number. Second value index will be 1. Fruits of 1 means you will get the second value from the array. It's just used to hold the different values. If you want to use this as a collection, as some group of values. If you want some group of values to be held in a single container, then you will use arrays. We will be seeing the usage of these arrays in the string functions. Let us write some code. I am declaring the array. I'll declare the same array here. Dim fruit of 2 means my array will contain 3 values. So first value I am declaring it as fruit 0 means first value. Assign the first value, which is apple, and then fruit of 1. All the subscripts, these are called, this what you place in this brackets are called subscripts or index values. Depending on the index, you will identify the particular element in an array. Next one, bananas. So fruit of 2. Grapes. Suppose here if you want to print all the array elements, you can again use for loop. But here a small modification, you should say for each element in the array. Let us say for each item in the array name. What is the array name? Fruit. And then here print item. Means for each item, as we studied, for loop will be used to iterate through each element in any object like Excel file and anything. So here I want to print each element of this array fruit. So by writing for each item in fruit, it will just iterate through each element of this array and will print the each word, each value like apple, bananas and grapes. Let us execute this. Right? Apple, bananas and grapes. For each loop, using for each loop, it will iterate through each elements in an array. So it is considered this fruit of 2, which is array element, it is considered as a single variable again, but which contains multiple values. After seeing this, let us see functions. What are functions in VB scripting? Suppose you have a code which is using multiple times. Suppose let us go for the new one. Right, you have some code like a is equal to b, then c is equal to, let us give some values, b is equal to 7, then c is equal to a plus b. Suppose you have this code, you have to use this code so many times in your script. Here you are using, and at some other point later on in your script, if you want to use the same set of code, you want to use the same 3 lines of code. So whenever you want to use repeated or reusable code, you will write that particular set of statements, those particular 3 statements in one block, which is called function. And the syntax is just function. You put function and automatically the end statement comes up. End is nothing but end function, exit statement for the function. So here you give the function name. I am giving add int. So if you put the code here, whatever you want, I want it to be this line of code, I want to execute again and again. Here, and this syntax is function name and the values it uses. It uses a, b. So function add int of a comma b. So whenever the code is repeated so many times, and if you want to use it multiple times, you just put that particular block of statements in one function, and at any point whenever you want to add those 2 integers, you will just write call to the function, that's all. Add int of a comma b, that's all. If you write this instead of this single statement, you'll just write a call to the function. And if here at the 16th line of code you want to do that operation, so it will just go here and call this function and will do this operation, and it will return the value of c, and that can be used in the script again. Suppose at later point you have to use again, then you'll just write a call to the function. How to call the function? Just by writing call and the function name and the values. So this is the way how you call. You need not write this code. You just write the function and just call. Here you should give the values. What values you want to add. In the call statement, you have to put the values. So call add int of 5, 6. So it will call this function and the addition will be performed and it will be added, and let us write a message box function here. Message box C means C will be shown as the output. Here it might be a single only 2 statements, but in our code, for example, we have done like a login scenario of flight reservation, right? Or else some open order scenario, or else writing the descriptive programming on a loan application. So it's a very lengthy code. Suppose you want to write the code repeatedly, because whenever you want to do the operation or else set operation or else some click operation on those objects, you have to write it again and again. So instead of writing again and again, we'll put that block in one function and we'll give some relative name to the function. And whenever you want that code to be executed at any point of your script, you will just say call and the function name and pass the values. So if you execute it, the code will be executed. Any number of times you can write this. Instead of writing this block of statements which are lengthy, you can just use call statement. Here the statements might be simple statements, just 2 statements. But as I told the example, like writing a DP, static DP, all the things, you have to write whenever you want to do some set operation on the list box. Each time you need to write the particular lengthy code. Instead of that, you'll just write once and put it in one block, which is called function. And whenever you want to do that set operation, you'll just write a call to the function. So that is called function. So if you execute it, right? So when you call this, automatically execution will go there and it will be executed. Using these functions, we'll use these functions in another better way in this VB scripting. That is nothing but library functions, which is a feature of QTP. Suppose here I am using the function. This is my test 53. If I put some function in this test, only this function will be used by this test. Suppose if I want this particular set of code to be repeated along so many other tests, I'll just put this function in another place, which is called function library. Where is that? Go to file menu, new, function library. Just put the function there. So this library is nothing but, and this will be stored with the extension .qfl or a VBS or a txt. You can save it in with any extension qfl. Okay, now your library is saved. So you put all the functions into this library, and so that you can call the function from any test. This is your 53, test 53. Here you have no function, but you can execute the function. You have a function there. You have already created a library file there. Now you need to associate that library function to your test. How to associate? Go to File, Settings, Resources, Associated Function Libraries. +1, browse it. Browse the function library which shows with the .qfl. Select it. So function library is added, associated to your test. Now say apply and OK. Now save the test. Now you can, if you executed, even though function is not present in your test, you can just see the output, get the output, right? But there is no function in my test. Likewise, if you put functions at one common place, which is called function library, that particular function can be executed from any number of tests, something like a global. From any test, you can use the function. Suppose you have some tests like test 1, test 2, test 3 and so on, and each uses the same code like a DP for loan application. So instead of writing those lengthy code, you can just put it in one function and put the function in one common place called library file, function library, so that you can just write a call to your function in your test, so that it will be executed and you can get the result. So in this way, you will put in the projects, the general practice is that you will put all the functions at one common place called function libraries, and will be accessing those functions or calling the functions from our tests. And one more thing, this function is called user defined, means we are defining it. This is user defined function. I am defining it. Users defined it. So this is called user defined functions. There are many functions in VB scripting which are built-in functions. Built-in function means you need not write the code for the function, but you can just directly use it, something like ready-made, which are built in with the QTP. Like you can see one example is message box function. It's the function, but we are not writing any code for message box, means to show that dialog box there should be some code, isn't it? Like we are using message box of X, then X is showing in some window and also OK button is shown there. So to do that, some coding should be done, but we are not doing that. We are just writing the function, means call. This is nothing but call to the function message box. These are called built-in functions which are already built within the environment of a VB scripting and QTP, and you can just directly use them by just writing a call to that function. So such type of functions are called built-in functions. Whereas the function here which you define is called, this is called user defined, and the function which is already there and you can directly use is called built-in function, where you define some function. Here you are writing the code to add the numbers. So that is what is called user defined. I am defining the function. Here it's already defined. You can just directly straight away use it in your scripts. So there are many built-in functions in VB scripting which are very much useful. Let us see some of the built-in functions. Even not only message box, input box is also a built-in function by which user is able to enter their input. You will just directly use the function and just write the arguments like enter the value of a and all. It will be executed directly. Similarly, there are many functions. Let us see some of the built-in functions. First, let us start with the string functions. Yes? Yes. Just you are having the code, right? Open the DP code if you are having anything. Okay, I'll write a simple function here. Okay. Suppose we are doing some login scenario on this application. Let us add this first objects to the repository. Okay, just I'm writing the code for login. So if I want to repeat this code so many times, just put this code in one function. Function login. Just put this code here. Okay. Now instead of writing this variable, let us give here UID. Let us give here PWD. Okay. Here the arguments are UID and password, right? So suppose whenever you want to do some operations on the flight reservation window, you want to repeat this code, isn't it? You want to repeat this code. So instead of writing the code again and again, I'll just write the code in one function and just call the function. call login. User ID is a value is, let us give testing, and the other value is Mercury. Okay, now just calling the function. Okay, let us put this in another library file. Right, so login, user ID and password, set user ID. I'm using the same variables which I'm passing here, and this is my test. Now just firstly associate the test, save it, associate this test to 54, file menu, settings, resources, add the particular library which is a library function, library 1, apply it. Okay, save the test again. So this is a library 1 which is having the function, and this is my test. Now open the window, now execute it. Right, same is the case here. Yes, yes, whatever you want to change you can change here, but if you want to use multiple sets of data, you have to write the column name in your data table. We have not gone through this, right, already. Anyway, I'll tell you. Login data table. Yes, this is the first one, and this is the second one. Password, and here it's not the value. Here again, dt global sheet, dt global sheet. But first of all, before using this, you should create the data table, create the column names. We have not gone through this data table concepts. So if you use this, it can be used with a multiple set of values. And here you need to enter the values manually, whatever you want to execute. And if you call this function, then each time it will take the value from each row in the column, and the function will be executed with that value. Here also you should not write user ID, and you should, okay, anyway, you can keep here user ID also, because the first value is the one, it takes up this one, data table of user ID and global sheet. Again, this comes into the parameterization concept. Okay, so instead of, because if the code is lengthy, then you can just remove this and write a DP for this. Yes, yes, Swarupa. Yeah, we'll come to that, we'll learn those things in the parameterization concept. We have now just started it. Okay, we have to learn that from the beginning. We have not yet started. We'll go to that in the next sessions. Yes, yes, by using data table and applying parameterization concept. If it is within this one, we can go with a data table. If it is external environment, we have to fetch the data by using import and export methods. We have to learn those things. It's a different topic, parameterization, which we are going to learn in the next sessions. So that is how you use the code. See, login scenario we are doing many times, right? Because if we want to do some open order scenario, or else fax order, or else signature on the fax, or whatever it is, you have to first open the application. So instead of opening the application every time, I mean writing the code for opening the application and entering the user ID and password, which we need to do so many times, we'll just put that in a library file like this in one function. So each time when we want to do this login scenario, I'll not generate this code, but I'll just write a call to the function. This writing a single statement is very easy, right? Instead of writing the lengthy code like this. We'll be implementing all these things in the frameworks. Anyhow, so where we are? Yeah, we are seeing some string functions, inbuilt functions. Yeah, is it clear, Swarupa? Can I go ahead? Fine. Open a new test. So let us see some built-in string functions. Like I told you, message box, all these are inbuilt functions. We can just directly straight away use them in our test without writing the code. See, if I want to use the login function, I'm writing the code, isn't it? I'm writing the set operation and all. But when I want to use these functions, I need not write the code for this. I can just execute them. So first one string function is lcase. What is this lcase function do? Suppose you have some variable x equal to some QTP. You have some variable like this. Then you can suppose you have all the things in capital letters, caps. Suppose you want to convert these things into lowercase. You can just write y equal to lcase function name. Just pass the argument which you want to change, x. That's all. Now your x will contain, let us see the output. Right? Everything converted into lowercase. Just usage of different functions. Some string functions are important for manipulating the data. Like you have another function, ucase. And here if you have something x equal to testing. Because it is string, let us include that in the double quotes. Now use y case and assign the output to the y. Now u case of x. You can guess the answer, just it will convert the values. Right? It will convert into the uppercase. Likewise, you are having many output functions, length function. Using this length function, you can get the length of the string. Length of the string means how many characters are there in the string. Just these are required for practicing VB scripting, and also they have got importance in whenever you want to manipulate the strings, working with the string values or another thing, this can be used. Like x equal to say something training. Then if you want to know the length of the particular string, means how many characters are there, just use and assign the length to the y variable. So y is equal to length of x, and then message box y. Eight. That's the length of the string, means each character. Count the characters, there will be 8 characters in the word training. So likewise, you are having so many functions. The other one is trim function. It will truncate. Trim function will truncate all the spaces before and after the string. Suppose you have something like that, x equal to some space here, right? Some space and then QTP, and also some space after QTP. Now take y equal to trim of x, and then use a message box function of y. Right? It will truncate the spaces. If you are not sure whether it truncated the spaces, you can use just a length function. Again, take it into z, length of y. Means you should get only 3 values. If there are some spaces, the value will be more. So just you can check it out. So there are many stream built-in functions which can be, these can be self-learned functions. You can learn yourself. Just take a one function, mid function, which will be used to read a specified number of characters. Suppose you have something like x equal to lab systems, something like this. Okay, so if you want only particular string within from out of the string, means say you want mid, and then see here, whenever you open the brackets, the syntax will be shown. String, on which string you want to perform, it's x, and then start position, means you want to extract some particular part of the string. So first it takes the argument is start position, from which part you want to get. Suppose I want to get the value from 3, that is b. So, and then length, which is optional. Let us give the length also. Let us give 4. Means I want from b, from the third character, I want 4 characters. Means 1, 2, 3, 4. Then dot. And then assign it to some variable. I want to assign the particular string to y. Next, use it a message box function, message box y. Right? Means from b I have got 4 characters. That is the use of mid function. Yes? Yes, it is depending on the situations, depending on the scenarios. If you have something like if you try to get some text edit box value into your control, right? You use a variable and get the value. Like you have other properties, like suppose you are having some edit box, bin edit, something like let us take some agent name or whatever. Then dot, you have some value. So suppose you want to capture the value which the user entered into the edit box. So here you use get arrow property, and then you say the property name is text, suppose. Then you assign it to some value x. But out of this edit box contains the full name, but you want only the first name or first 4 characters to use in your script, right? If suppose that is the scenario you have, means depending on the scenario, if you need to manipulate the string values anywhere in your script, you can just use it. Just then you get the value into the string, and you want to get only some particular value, some 4 letters, then you take it to another variable, y equal to mid, only I want to get the first 4 characters. So just start position and number of characters you want, and then you got the value, means first name, you want only the first name, so you got the first name. So you can compare this first name whether this is correct as the user requirement or not. Say suppose the first name or else first 4 letters of the user input should be only something like a Gmail. Let us say you have something like @gmail.com, right? Suppose the client wants only Gmail ID to be entered, right? Are you following me? Suppose take the X, and this edit box is some mail address. Let us see, this is some mail address. Okay, so I got the mail address into X, but I want to verify whether it is a Gmail address or not, because client want to accept only Gmail address. So some restrictions might be there. I mean, a Gmail address should be it's of a 4 characters, that's fine. Gmail, okay, 5 characters, but I think or else the client wants it to be from the some 6th character. It starts from username is 6 characters, then so To check the Gmail or not, it starts from 6 characters. So I'll get that into Y. Then I'll verify whether Y equal to Gmail or not. So in that way, these manipulated functions can be used, string manipulation functions. So depending on the scenarios, this can be applied. This will be used in real times also. Just getting a practice of this will be useful. And we'll be learning in the next sessions, okay? Don't worry, we have not yet finished those things, okay? We'll be seeing this in the next sessions. Just I'm going through the basics. So once you get the idea of this basics, we'll be implementing that in our scripts, okay? So, and also you have got some nearly 50 or more VB scripting examples for your practice. Just to get a grip over the scripting language, you have provided with a 50 or odd examples. You can just go through that and practice those things. Those will be useful. Because if you are beginner, if you are fresher for programming, those will be very much helpful. Very basic VB scripts. Okay. Okay, then, yes. Similar in the sense, like using the variables, that concept is similar, but using the syntax, that will be different. Like see here, we are having message box, and to get the function syntax is something like this function and so on. But coming to the C language, the syntax changes, right? There is no message box in C language. So somewhat differs, but the concept is same, like using the variables, so that's everything is same. But of course, there will be many more differences also. But the thing is, if you know any programming language or else any basics, the learning this will be very easy. Of course, anyhow, VB scripting is very easy. It becomes much more easy. That's all. Is this Bindu? Yeah, is this Bindu who just asked, or Swarupa? Oh, fine. Yeah.